Well, hello there, chums. I just poured tea all over my leg. I just wanted to show you that I had tea in my cup. I actually burnt a little. Right. Anyway, I have some good news. I have some good news for you guys, people. Out there inside of the viewerverse, news for No Man's Sky. Yes, I do. So let's hit that one up while my leg's drying out. So here we go. Podcast time. Heck yes. So I'm over on the Twitterverse and Procedural Traveller with the news yet again. He's actually clipped a nice little part from the acceptance speech from the actual awards, and it was collected by Ian Brown. So he looks after the servers. You can see there it says Game Code Monkey, current server monkey, and Hello Games. Ah, awesome. Right, so let's make this nice and big, and let's hit play on this. There we go.
And the BAFTA goes to No Man's Sky.
Not on my leg.
This is a huge fan favourite. Absolutely.
Fortunately, I did prepare a slight speech. First of all, I'm Ian Brown. I'm the team multiplayer and server lead. And I apologise for Sean, who couldn't make it tonight. He is spending time with his family. Oh, thank you, Sean. I'm a little bit nervous, as you can probably tell. This particular award means a lot to us because all of our updates come from individual passions on the team. People champion a feature and they make it their own and they build it and deliver it. So it's great to see that we received this tonight for that. I'd also like to say thank you to our community who are still playing after 6 years of being out there. And we couldn't keep on making updates if people weren't playing the game. And just to say we're not finished with No Man's Sky just yet. There's going to be more updates coming, and maybe we'll be back in next year.
Oh, bless him. He seems like such a nice guy, and so do all of the people at Hello Games, really. They seem to be such a down-to-earth, likeable company, don't they? They really do. But well done, Hello Games. Well done, Sean Murray. Well done, all the team there. And you know what, Ian? You did a good job. You did a good job. And lovely to hear that there's more updates on the way. Heck yes, that's freaking great news for the community. And yeah, scrolling up, look at that. There's the BAFTA right there. Quite sinister looking, aren't they, really? They look like they've been BAFTA'd to freaking fudge. Bits missing off of them and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, pretty mental. But look at this. Look at Sean Murray's comment. I can't even say what the... WTF, you guys. Never thought this would happen. Huge congratulations to all of the team. Absolutely humbled to be nominated with such amazing games. Well, it's the one game that you've been nominated for. Hello Games. No Man's Sky, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. But yes, you was up against some pretty amazing games. And you guys came out on top. Salutamundo. You're freaking awesome. Heck yes. Awesome. So there we go, people. Very, very cool. Very, very awesome. This is very, very cool and very, very awesome. I kind of feel that the game has evolved. Well, I mean, it's obvious that it's evolved. It's had countless freaking updates, and it has been getting new updates all the time. However, these updates that have been given in the last year or so, since Origins was freaking brilliant. Origins brought in more fauna to see, more flora, 2 new biomes. Pretty nice. I mean, those 2 new biomes that we've got, I mean, they're a little bit shallow. Now, when I say they're a little bit shallow, they haven't got their own types of flora on there that you can then plant on planets like all the other biomes. So there's no real sense to overly go there to actually get resources that you can't find on other planets, apart from you can get basalt. You can get basalt on the lava planets, but what do you use basalt for? Or you can go to the swamp planets, which, yeah, you can get mordites, but you can get that from killing creatures and things. So, yeah, again, there's no real point after you've seen the lava planets and the swamp planets to really land on them ever again. And also, once you've seen one swamp planet, you've seen all the swamp planets. Once you've seen the one lava planet, you've kind of seen all the lava planets, because there's not that many assets that they've used for either of those 2 biomes. But they're 2 new biomes. They're 2 new biomes, and they were free. So, should I complain? Well, kind of yes, because in a universe full of planets, and maybe you've got 50 to 60 biomes there across a quintillion planets, you're going to see patterns, you're going to see repeated things. And Hello Games said that was never going to be the case back in GDC 2015. So although that it's evolved past from what we got delivered at launch, what we were actually promised prior to launch sounded more tantalizing than what was actually delivered, and is still more tantalizing than what we actually have now. In fact, you still have all that stuff that comes up at the start saying every rock, fish, sea, cloud, blah-de-blah, all procedurally generated. No, a lot of these are actually they're actually made assets that are procedurally placed, would be more accurate. Anyway, I'm going to jump over and I'm just going to show you the E3 trailer and just show you one point. Because here we are. Let's just hit this up. Let's just make this nice and big. Jump back over to podcast mode so you can see it on your screen, so you can see what I'm on about. So yeah, it starts off in this lovely sort of fandangly sort of cave. But look, there's a tree on the right there that's got a nice little bend to it. And there's another one here that's got a bend to it. Where's my mouse pointer? There you are. So yeah, now look at some of these other trees that you can see here. Look. These have got all vines in them. These ones have got foliage on the bark that go a certain distance up. I mean, some of them, the foliage is very little and sparse and quite low down. Then others go all the way up the trunk. There's a tree there that's shooting off at a weird angle. Every single tree here looks different to one another. They don't look procedurally placed. They look procedurally generated, the trees. So it looks like the actual meshes have been deformed for the trees, and some of them have even added in like vines. I mean, look at that. There's a big lupin vine there, some dangly vines here. But you're going to see that on a lot of the trees. And a lot of this planet feels... Show me a planet that's got this much variety in the flora. I mean, look at that little cluster of trees over there. Let me just skip that back just a second. This cluster of trees over here. Hold on, let's just get that a little bit further. Yeah, look at all this cluster of trees here. You can see vines there. You can see a mixture of curved trees, straight trees, just in one little cluster there. There's probably more variety in that one cluster than we get on our whole freaking planets right now. So, yeah, where they say it's an evolving game, the people given the rewards, I don't think play it or pay much attention to this. I mean, take a look at this. Look at that one. It's like almost an S shape. It's freaking... We just don't get this sort of stuff. And you're going to see things floating on the top of the water as well in some of the old video footage. There's like lily pads, and they've got like vines and tendrils hanging down from the lily pads. I mean, not on this video, but on other IGN First videos. Give those a watch. Watch all the old videos, and you'll start seeing things, and you're like, that's an iteration. Why have we not got that? You know, you've got these majestic sort of Diplos here. I mean, look at the Diplos. Hold on one second. Let me just skip that back a little bit. Now, these Diplos, their tails, look how they curl and uncurl like there. And you see its head, it actually rotates like so, you know, and it looks around. It actually looks more sort of alive and organic. It looks freaking beautiful. So here we go. Let's just play that. So you can see them actually moving around, and they look fairly realistic, you know? Look at that. Freaking great. Freaking groovy, baby. Heck yes. And look at the joints in the legs and how they all sort of move. Looks very realistic, has to be said. Now, every single planet, Sean Murray said, look, we've just touched down on this one, and yes, it's got dinosaurs on it, and aren't they majestically awesome? They look fantastic. I mean, there's a giant freaking rhino that smashes through the trees here. Look at that. It's actually destructing the environment. And with that, all the other creatures just scatter, and there's a freaking herd of them, which is pretty darn freaking epic. You know, that planet feels alive. And Sean Murray, he said, this is just one planet. This is one planet in a quintillion planets, and we don't know what's out there. We don't know when we put the boots on the ground whether we're going to see a majestic dinosaur or whether we're going to see a rhino that smashes down trees. Heck, that could be an octopus weird creature. You know, it could be anything. Yeah, we don't know what's out there. So when they promised us this procedural universe where you can engage in freighter battles and actually pick sides. You can pick sides, people. Yeah, and actually join that faction. And whatever you do is going to affect other factions. And, you know, that sort of gnarly stuff. I mean, look at that. That looks quite epic. And flying in a squadron, in a formation. That'd be cool to be able to do that, wouldn't it? You know, to actually get wingman and things, even if they were NPC driven. And you fly down to another planet here and you can see it's quite barren. Now, granted, when we did first get No Man's Sky, it was quite barren. We did used to come across planets with no life on whatsoever. But then when you did find a planet that had life, you was like, oh my days, it's got life. But yeah, this planet itself, we don't have biomes like this either. You can see here there's all these sort of industrial outlets, so it almost looks like this planet is just for mining resources or something. So it might have some sort of sense of purpose or promise. But the contrast from this planet to the other planet is like insane. And you're like, oh my days. It really is a procedurally generated universe where there isn't set biomes. It is complete chance where you land and what you find and exploration, and you can name all this stuff and all that sort of shenanigans, which is great, fantastic. I got super excited for this. When you see GDC 2015 where they're talking about the art direction and what they want to do with this game, and then pre-order, take my money, have my money. What you're saying in GDC 2015 is exactly what I want. And then, yeah, I know. We've got something a little bit different now, and I should be grateful for what we've got. And I am, don't get me wrong. But I still feel that, we can still have our cake. We can still have our cake and eat it. All they need to do is deliver some of that majestically awesome stuff that we saw in those trailers and some of the things that they said in 2015 in GDC. And then we've got a bow on the top. Every single update, I'm like, have they delivered on some of these things? Have they put these back into the game? Are we going to get what they promised? And then we get something that is well off the beaten track. Okay, so here we go. Let's just hit play. And I'll talk a little bit more about those sort of fuzzy dicey type updates, as I call them.
Only
And
a
here you
couple
go.
of
I'm going to hit
seconds
play.
have passed.
So
I
this
think
is
I've
me
just
coming
spotted
across
a giant
Diplos.
He just
in
went behind that
current
giant
iteration.
rock
So we go,
that's
I'm just
jutting out the ground there.
And let's just
I'm
pop it over
fairly
here.
sure it was a
So,
Diplo.
I'm just going to
Let's
shut up
get
for a
on
second.
down. Yeah, look, he's walking towards me. He must have saw me as well. Well, he is a big guy. Look at that. He's pretty darn sweet, isn't he? Okay, let's go into camera mode. Let's have a better look at this little chappie. We can put the sun in the sky that way. Oh my days. Look at that. That's pretty darn swish, isn't it? Oh, that's such a cool screenshot as well, isn't it? He doesn't actually look all that big there, does he? But he is. He's massive. Wow. That is pretty damn epic. The sun is coming up now, chums, and this is beautiful. I mean, how big is this dude? Let's just give him a scan. Let's see if it says how big this chap is. Oh, he's a 6.3 meter dude. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Heck yes, it's making the ground vibrate when it comes near me. Oh, you're a magnificent beast. You really are. Okay, right. Well, there was a lot.
Okay, well, I'll leave that playing in the background because it's more interesting to not have something playing in the background. But you see the Diplo there? All its head does is it stays static. It stays looking forwards, locked forwards. And then it just goes down, goes up. I'm a crane. I'm not a diplodocus. No, I'm not an animal. I'm very robotic. Yes, it's not a majestic beastie. And no, we don't get them with nice big curly tails and things like that. The funny thing is a lot of modders out there have actually added in the E3 Diplo back into iteration, and you do get to see them in modded PC versions. And yeah, they're not even the same beastie. They don't run off the same sort of mechanics or generation table. So those were assets that were created by Hello Games and placed into that trailer just for trailer's sake. Although it said gameplay trailer, E3 gameplay trailer, it wasn't really gameplay per se. It's something that sat in a dev folder that's never seen the light of day or been put into iteration. You know, like how they delivered on Expedition Emergence and we got those worm babbers popping up and all that sort of stuff. They could do an expedition where we do get to go to maybe some of those E3 planets that have got those scripted animals like the Rhino, like the Diplo, or add in a mission set that lets us go and visit those. Or maybe even going into the void takes you into previous iterations, and maybe we could go and visit Araya V and all those sorts of other planets, which would be freaking excellent. It could be like a Hello Games universe where there's no base building or something. There's multiple ways that they could deliver some of the actual organicness and the variety that we saw in some of those sort of demos. But they haven't as yet, and it still feels like it hasn't lived up to that promise of a fully procedurally generated universe in the way of diversity and procedural greatness and variety. You know, we're just not seeing that. I mean, when we got Origins, I was like, this is super great, because Hello Games said this is our new foundation and a new way forwards, and we want to be delivering more stuff like this into the universe. I was like, freaking ace. So I was hoping to see maybe new biomes added, or even scrapping the idea of biomes and going with the idea of super biomes, which they said in GDC 2015, because they said that people are so good at spotting patterns. They would come down, they would land on a scorched planet and go, oh, it's a scorched planet, or they'd land on a frost planet and go, oh, it's a frost planet. They'd stay for a couple of minutes and they'd take off. Well, what do you do right now? Do you do exactly that? Do you go straight to a planet, pick up the resources that you went there for, and then get out of there? I know I do. I don't really go exploring all that much. And even the naming of stuff, I've rarely do that now, mainly because the discovery servers have been so squiffy that sometimes you go and you discover everything on a planet. You go back like 3 weeks later and you go to scan the creature. Oh yeah, I'll name this one Davey Dave or something. You go to scan it and it comes up with question marks, and it doesn't show Davey Dave right away until after you've scanned it again. Then it pops up and it was like, yeah, it's been found, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it doesn't though. Sometimes you've lost that discovery. It seems to be a little bit hit and miss. It doesn't seem to have the cohesion that it needs to have. It's like naming your ship. Why bother? You know, any of your friends that come along and look at your ship, it just says Captain Steve's ship. It doesn't actually come up with the name of the ship that you named it. So, yeah. It does feel like we're not discovering these worlds. It seems like we're going there and just renaming everything because they've already got freaking names. You know, why bother giving them? Just give them a load of bloody question marks until somebody goes out there and actually discovers it. Then that would feel a little bit better. But then maybe give them some sort of point to going around and discovering things. Like when you upload it, it starts building out a registry, or maybe you can sell that data to maybe the Korvax or the Viking or the Gek and map stuff out and gain maps. I just feel it needs a little bit of a respecking, a little bit of a rethink, because everything that we've got now has got a certain amount of depth. I'd say there's much depth, which is a good amount of depth. But in a procedurally generated universe, you would like it to have a freaking swathe of depth. Every single update that we get, so this is coming on to the updates that we've been having recently, seem to have a very sort of small shelf life and lifespan. You play them for about 6 hours, you've done everything. You've completely clocked it in about 6 hours, a lot of these updates. And they must take Hello Games like 6 to 8 weeks or whatever to actually put them together, or even longer than that. Who knows how long it takes them. But it doesn't take us long to finish the actual content. Take, for instance, Sentinel update. Okay, yeah, so you can go to these Sentinel structures and shut the Sentinels down. One, the Sentinels don't attack you or try to stop you from shutting down that actual terminal if you've got the Sentinel map. You just go straight there and turn it off. What? And also, the only thing that you get out of there that you might not get anywhere else is an alien-y, well, not an alien-y, a sort of exotic multi-tool that looks like some sort of, I don't know, Hoover or something, some sort of like dustbuster, you know? Once you've got that dustbuster multi-tool, there's no real reason to go to those Sentinel outposts anymore, unless you want to shut down Sentinel activity on an Extreme Sentinel world, which pretty cool. That's not too bad. That's pretty nice. I like that feature. In fact, it was something that I suggested gets added, to be fair. And they've added it, which is great. Love it. But I would love it if it was a little more difficult. You know, like how up in space we've now got the derelict freighters, where it's a procedurally generated dungeon that you go through. Wouldn't it have been better if they put some sort of structure on a planet's surface that was like that you go into? It looks like a bunker from the outside. Once you go into it, it procedurally generates an interior dungeon that you have to work your way through, taking out all different Sentinel turrets, Sentinel sort of monsters, or Sentinel robots that you don't get to see on the surface or something. And then you shut down the Sentinel core inside of there to shut down the activity. And you're probably thinking, well, at the moment, Captain Steve, I don't really run the derelict freighters. Well, points proven. I mean, who runs the derelict freighters after you've got all the base parts out of there? Why would you? Do you know what I mean? They need to add in procedurally generated rewards for doing these things. It's like at the end when you get your dustbuster. Rather than get a dustbuster, why not put in there some super modules? You know, like the X-class modules can be sort of spec'd to do different things. Well, what if they were better than S-class? Almost as good as 2 S-class modules, or maybe even the 3 S-class modules. Which means that then once you put it into your actual multi-tool though, or into your spaceship, whatever the module's for, it breaks all the other tech that you've got, the S-Class tech you've got. So if it's better than 3 S-Class modules combined, putting it in frees up a load of slots. But it's still better than the 3 S-Classes that you had, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, that would work. If they had procedurally generated modules, and it was random which one you got, that'd be freaking ace. And also to save sort of players just putting out the code. Yeah, if you want the triple S class frickin' geology cannon, go to this system. Once a player's taken it, maybe then it just locks the actual bunker door and other players can't go in, or it just generates a different thing. Every single time you go there, it's a random drop generation from a seed bank of some kind. So yeah, you might get it if you're lucky, but you're just as likely to get something else. You know, that could work quite nicely, or at least I think it could. You know, if it's just me, let me know in the comments. If you've got a better idea of delivering something in, put it in the comments. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas, but you know, you guys out there, you play this game just as much as me. So yeah, I'd love to hear your ideas and stick them inside the comments. But what I'm getting at is a lot of these updates. It's like the settlements update. I mean, settlements, I really like the procedurally generated buildings. Freaking hats off, Hello Games. Well done. That's a brilliant, awesome idea to bring it into the verse. But what do the settlements actually bring for the player? What does it do for us? What does that do for it? Yes, it rewards you 2 random elements that you probably didn't want or have no rhyme or reason to the actual planet given. And also, all of your settlement little guys that you've got down there, you don't know who they are. You didn't appoint them to the buildings. You didn't find them. They just appeared inside of your settlement. And you've got no sort of relationship with them or kinship. Wouldn't it be better if you get to choose what building you want to put down, but then it's unoccupied? You have to go up into stations and find your actual residents, talk to them, and see how they get on with other residents. It's like you might get a Viking that still doesn't like the Geek. So if you go and stick him in the same house as a Geek, he's going to go ballistic and probably not do so much for your town. And each person maybe give them sorts of set skills. So one might be a farmer, one might be a geologist. So putting them inside of your base is going to change those 2 products that you get at the end. In fact, why not do away with those 2 products that you get at the end and add in some more buildings that actually have rhyme or reason? Like if you have employed a geologist, maybe put down a geologist building, you know, that's got all stones on racks behind the actual resident or whatever, and it looks like they're actually hitting rocks when you actually put them in there and stuff and splitting them. And when you go over to them and talk to them, maybe they might say to you, well, look, I can give you all this ferrite dust that I've managed to come across. It's no use to me. Or I can give you this silicate powder. I'm always needing silicate powder. I have to go around with my terrain manipulator digging holes in the freaking ground to get silicate powder so I can make some glass or make some of the components I need for base building. And we all know that if you go and dig a hole near to your base, it adds to your base complexity. So yeah, add in something like that. That'd be freaking worthwhile. I'd love to have a settlement where I could just get a shed load of silicate powder from one of the residents there. But not only that, you could add in fauna pens, you know, because at the moment we can't actually farm creatures. We can build, we can put down the auto feeders, we can put down the auto harvesters. All great. It's harvesting the creatures that are there when we actually put it all together. Fantastic. Reload in, creatures are gone. Yeah, they despawn. We've got no way of penning them in. We've got no way of actually guaranteeing that you're going to have a fauna farm there. And you know those actual feeders and those actual harvesters, they cost a shed load of freaking resources to put down in the first place. This is what I'm getting at. It almost feels like Hello Games put in these sort of updates for the sake of putting in updates to draw in more players. Look at us, we're doing all this for the game. We're doing all this for the community, which you are, which is great. But it's more to entice in new players rather than to keep those that have been playing and got thousands of hours in the game already. And this is another point. There doesn't seem to be anything for those people that have S-class the heck out of everything. And there's no sort of end game. The end game, you get to the center of the universe, spoiler alert, pulls you back to and you start in another galaxy that's almost identical to the one that you was just in, maybe with a slight sort of variation or tweak on the type of planets you might come across. Some systems might have more lushes than alien planets, for example, but it's minute, it's minuscule, the actual changes. There's no real rhyme or reason to actually go and explore all 250 of them. I think 250 odd galaxies is insanely stupid in the way that, because they're all the same. And they're all the same because it would be impossible to make 256 variants or whatever. There's so many decent PC mods out there. What I'd love to see is you to scale it back. Yeah, sometimes less is more. Okay, so maybe have 16 galaxies to go with your 1616 theme, but make every single galaxy extremely different. I'm talking massively different. So yeah, the closer you get to the 16th, the more likely you are to come across something really cool, like maybe your E3 world with those Diplos on. And, maybe that's Galaxy 15 or the Diploverse. Because if I was to do it, I would link it to all of the glyphs that you've got. So, you've got the Diplo glyph. So maybe go into the Diplo universe will give you that E3 Diplo experience that everybody would love to see. When I say everybody that watched the E3 demo, I'm talking about the people that pre-ordered this game based on those sort of videos and based on what we saw on GDC and all the sorts of promises that were given in IGN first videos, all that sort of stuff. Deliver it in these 16 different universes. Maybe link them to different builds and different versions and all that sort of shenanigans, Here you go. Let me just jump back over to my video because, you're probably getting a bit bored of seeing me over there. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. That's the one I wanted. So, I just felt that would encourage people to travel. Maybe the 16th universe, the last one that people go to, could be a random generation of all the 15 galaxies before. So every jump you do could bring you a little bit of what you've seen on your journey there. So that's the last iteration where all the walls and all the barriers have collapsed, where it's all merging into one. It's like chaos, but it's procedural greatness because it's bits of every single previous universe. And all these universes being so different, you don't know what you're going to get from one jump to the next jump. Hello, games. I know you don't want to do a reset. And I know there's a lot of people in the community that have got bases built everywhere. Just leave Euclid completely untouched, But that's your first galaxy. That's your starting one. And reset all the rest afterwards. But maybe at a base computer, when you put down a base computer, maybe you can restore a favourite base. If you give players the opportunity to go through in a new update to actually just favourite some of their bases, up to say 3 to 5 bases, and you hit them up as favourites, maybe you can restore those. You put down a base computer and you just hit, restore, or you hit the favourite one and it builds out your base. I mean, it should put out a big green mapping of it first so you can see whether it's going to appear like merged into something or whatever. There's ways and means that you guys could probably do this and deliver it in. But what I'm getting at is, although that the game has evolved, and it's evolved massively, and hats off, you deserve that BAFTA, you really do, because the amount of work that you and your team do, you can see that it's a labour of love, and you're fantastic, you really are. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that were in the E3 trailer, the GDC 2015 stuff, still hasn't been delivered in. And when I saw Origins come out and you were saying it was the new way forwards, I really did think we was going to get more variety, more diversity in the way of Origins. Maybe I misread what you were saying, but I still feel what we were shown all that time ago still hasn't been fully realised in potential or actuality into the game. And we're 5 years down the line, and every update I get so excited. I'm like, oh, this could be it. This could be the one. This could bring in all that sort of stuff that they promised and we're going to deliver in. I mean, even when you go over to the website, the Hello Games website, let me see if I can get to the Hello Games website. 1 second. Of course, I will be able to. No Man's Sky. Let's just type that in. Why didn't that work? Wrong keyboard. No Man's Sky. Boom. Let's get rid of that. I'll bring it up on the screen in a minute. I know that all you can see is me, but I'm just going to get there. Okay, right. So we go. Podcast. Over to here. And if I go to press up here, okay, so this is the press pack. This is what Hello Games give out to anybody that wants information on No Man's Sky and what No Man's Sky actually does. They give the Atlas Rises sort of trailer, which is really cool. And they give some of these other ones, which is really cool. But then when they get to screenshots, I mean, they've still got this one. And it's still, look, you can see there, it says No Man's Sky gameplay back in 2014. Well, if that was gameplay in 2014, I would say some of this stuff that's in there is nicer in part than what we've got now. It's like these luminescent biome planets. Well, we've only just got those during Origins, but this was back like 2014 time. But keep going down, you're going to get to the images. So these are all the static images. So these are what people can use in the press. You carry on going down. You've got this, which is stampeding stegosaurs. I don't think I've ever seen stegosaurs, and I've never seen a planet that looks like this. That's got all these crystalline structures on. That's another thing. Crystal freaking biomes. That'd be awesome. This down freighter looks freaking immense. I love that. Yes, we now get clusters of sentinels like this flying around planets, but we didn't before. there's a lot of stuff in here. It's like Sentinel ships fly over. I don't think I've ever seen 3 Sentinel ships at once on a planet's surface. But that's something they could have introduced with the Sentinel update, is actually add in more Sentinel ships flying over, like patrolling ships, especially on the extreme Sentinel worlds. That would have made a lot of sense. Yeah, it's 2 Sentinel walkers just walking around in the open as well. No, I see one. I've never seen like multiples of Sentinel walkers. And that's not the only image where you see multiple Sentinel walkers. You see them here as well in this image. Look, they're all over the freaking shop. And also these sort of procedurally generated planets that's like this with these columns. This is what I mean. Every planet you land on, if there's no fixed biomes, I mean, what biome is that? What type of biome? We've never seen a planet like that in No Man's Sky ever. Okay. So these are what the press packs are allowed to put out there, and they still look at that structure. What is that structure? You know, and look at that. Is that waves down there? I don't know. But yeah, we don't really get sort of waves on planets. We get very sort of flat, sort of linear textures when it comes to water cover. But then they've still got this sort of image, and I'm fairly sure if you turn around to people that never bought No Man's Sky and said, "What's No Man's Sky?" they're going to say, "Dinosaurs in space." Yeah, that's pretty much. That's the image that is sort of engrafted into people's heads. When you say No Man's Sky, that's what they think of. That's what they think of, is that. Because that was so iconic. Yet it's nowhere to be found inside the universe to date. And it's even like the giant sandworms. Yeah, I know they went across the planet's surface, Sean. You're like, getting killed by a sandworm is no fun. Well, I'll tell you what, getting killed by freaking tornadoes, or getting killed by freaking lightning strikes, or meteors, it's just as not fun. But you know what? I enjoy getting killed by freaking tornadoes and lightning storms and things. I actually think twice about landing on those extreme planets. Or if I see a storm rolling in, I'm like, why didn't I build a cave? I mean, why didn't I build a base? Let's find a cave. It's fun. Yeah, so if you did have those giant freaking killer sandworms that you can kill back, you know, but maybe you might need all the S-class modules under the freaking sun, at least it gives players like me something to do. I can go hunting bloody evil fauna. Yeah, not just, if you're going to add in freaking killer sandworms, add in killer freaking rhinos that smash down trees and destruct environments, and have extreme fauna worlds, you know, so label them from space like you do with the freaking extreme sentinel worlds. So players go, do I want to be eaten alive by a giant sandworm or crocodilian or freaking giant rhino beast or octopus monster or whatever? Because, to be honest, alien worlds need alien creatures that are freaking dangerous. I mean, that's the whole beauty of exploration, isn't it? It's why you watch Star Trek. I mean, admit it, you would love to see Jean-Luc Picard get picked up by a giant kraken and torn a new one just because he didn't do his homework. Heck yes, I know I would. Yeah. So it's like these little creatures as well in the sky with their majestic tails. And some of the creatures inside of your E3 sort of trailers or the IGN First, where you see these big creatures that look like stunt kites. They've got all these wavy-davy lines coming off of them. We still haven't got anything like that. It's even like this little red crystal down there. I know it's so small, but at the moment, every planet you go on has got the same crystalline structures, the jagged ones. Add back in these things. I mean, you made them. Freaking put them in, you know. Some of the planets could have different sort of crystals on. It's a procedural universe, Sean. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is although it's evolved, has it evolved for Hello Games to bring in new players, or has it evolved just to keep people continuing to play? I think both of those are true. But when I say continuing to get people to play, it hasn't really brought in depth. I can't go out and say, right, I want to better my modules today, because the modules are the modules. They've got their set caps and things. There's no sort of random generation inside of the loot. There's just not enough loot systems there, or reason to even have this high-grade loot anyway, because there's no sort of end-game challenges. So what I would say to Hello Games right now, let's make me nice and big again. So this is for Hello Games. If you're watching out there, Hello Games, please think about player depth and replayability and longevity and, yeah, just sways of depth. Any update that you put in, think of how long is this going to take a player to actually achieve and do all of this stuff? How can we make that a bigger, larger, more involved experience? And I think you'll be onto a winner. Because at the moment, a lot of this stuff, it might take you months to do. But then for somebody like myself and a lot of the other players out there that have been playing this game since day dot, it's going to take us maybe a day to 2 days, maybe a week at best. I mean, the Sentinel update, I managed to get my multi-tool and managed to do everything that the Sentinel update had to offer and deliver within about 3 days to 4 days. And it was exciting for those 3 to 4 days. And yeah, I loved the lore. All the lore that you added in are fantastic, but a lot of this lore is all pointing to an alternate reality, like the Void or the Realm of Glass or a new threat. It's like Ariadne. You even mentioned her inside of the Sentinel update. You know, all this is sort of tantalizing, awesome stuff. It would be nice if you did something a little bit like what, say, Star Citizen do. So Star Citizen gives some sort of news brief, or this is what the team's working on, this is what we're hoping to achieve or bring into the verse. They keep it quite vague, but at least they give an idea of what's going on in sense of direction. And yes, you're doing that inside of game in way of lore, but it's not official. And I keep playing in a hope that you're going to deliver in some of the stuff that we see in this press pack, some of the stuff from right back when, but also I'm hoping you manage to tie it into your lore, because the lore is all about these different sorts of iterations and simulations breaking down. It's like in the lore, it states that, you know, at first players couldn't meet each other, but now they can as the actual systems are breaking down. Well, does that mean that as the systems are breaking down, we're going to get more variety? Does that mean we're going to get the chance of seeing some of this, you know, no fixed biomes anymore? We're going to get super biomes, because it could, because it's there in the lore, and it was there promised by you guys before any of this actually happened. So if you wanted to recant on stuff, if you wanted to give the galaxy a reset, one, it fits into the lore, and two, it'd be the prime time to do it. Now that everybody's managed to get to the point in game where perhaps I'm at, and a lot of other players are at, where they're like, what do I do now? I've got everything. I've done everything. I've been to a couple of other galaxies. They're all the freaking same. Why carry on playing? What's the point in continuing to play other than to build bases and show bases off? And that's pretty much what No Man's Sky's evolved into, is a base building game. It's no longer an exploration game that we all really wanted, because I'm not seeing anything overly new appearing. Origins brought us some of that, and it really brought me back into No Man's Sky, but it only captivated me for that one. Gave me probably about 3 months or so. And then when you put companions in there where you can actually pet the creatures, that was brilliant. Nice one. But that added a certain amount of depth for a certain amount of time. And yes, it would be great, but those creatures, those pet creatures, what do they do? What do they do for the player? This is what I'm getting back to as well. Yes, you can ride them, and they might get you the odd resource, but you point at a rock or whatever, it doesn't harvest that rock, it goes off and takes a crap behind it or something. They don't attack sort of the flora, sorry. They don't go and kill all the hazardous flora for you. It goes scouting ahead, walks straight past all the hazards, lets you fricking encounter them. They don't do enough for the actual player. You know, your companions should act as companions and do more, almost like the Sentinel mech does. The Sentinel mech is actually worth having the AI pilot on. It's great, apart from it gets damaged, and some of those components are really hard to repair, and you need to go hunt down some repair kits. But yeah, make the creatures freaking useful. Have useful pets, because I very rarely get mine out, because now I just find it walks in front of me. That seems to be another thing. Try to program to walk to the side or behind you rather than in line of freaking sight, unless you actually point ahead so they go scouting ahead, because they block you from scanning stuff. They block you from mining stuff. They just get in the way too much, especially if you've made them large. But yeah. Yes, there's a lot you could do to improve pets. There's a lot that you could do to improve settlements. There's a lot that you could do to improve, say, the living ship. I mean, the living ship. Who uses their living ship? It does nothing. It's got the photon cannons, it's got the phase beams, but it hasn't got missiles. It hasn't got improved launch thrusters. Oh, I love your improved launch thrusters, by the way. Thank you very much. I know that was a suggestion that I made eons ago. It'd be nice to have gel pack ones or ones that replenish. You've done that. Thank you. But yeah, living ships, they need so much more tech. You need to be able to expand their storage. No one's using their living ships. The living ships are dead. They don't live. They live in people's freighters. That's where they live. You see the odd one flying around because someone's probably had it for a week. But after you've had it a week and you realise that it's turd, you don't use it anymore. I mean, it's a nice shiny turd. It looks like an IKEA lampshade. I guess it does. It's got style. It's got panache. But has it got any usability? No. So yeah, you need to work on the things that haven't got depth. Add depth. Make an update just on depth. Add a load of depth to what you've put in. Make the fuzzy dice feel like they're actually worth having and flesh them out is what I'm going with. But yes, it's a very cool, evolving game, and you've added in a lot of foundations. You've added in lots of potential. on top of things that already needed unlocking for potential. So right now, what we've got is a jumble sale of bits that kind of have sense and kind of have cohesion, but they don't have the depth that they need to actually make them fun, make them an actual game element. It just feels like, oh, that's there. Oh, that's there. Oh, that's been pigeonholed in. That. Just look at each and every single update that you've done and think, how can I make this more interesting for the player? How can I make this work for the player? It's like the derelict freighters. The end room that you go to inside of a derelict freighter is double the height of any of the other rooms inside of your derelict freighters. Stick a randomized boss in there. Give us a deadly freaking creature. Heck yes, and when you take out that deadly freaking creature and make them extremely different from freighter to freighter, once you take them out, maybe then you get one of those triple S class modules that I was on about inside of those places, you know? That we can then just replace out our free S classes and have that in there. That'd be freaking great, you know, and I'm fairly sure you guys could do that, and I think you would like to make those freaking deadly creatures. I know I freaking would. Yeah, have a real cute, like, looking snail creature in one that when its head pops out, it's freaking got dicky fangs and tentacles that fly out and try to grab you and murdercate you. You know, stuff like that. Heck, I'm full of these ideas. Freaking employ me. Employ me. I'll come and work with you guys. I can work remotely. You know what this world is like. And I would feed you these ideas. I've been playing your game for 5 freaking years. And I really honestly feel I could better every single update in way of ideas. I mean, you might not want the ideas. They might not even work. But, you know, you could play with them. Yeah, there we go. And I'd have these ideas for any of your games. I love your art style. I love your people. I'd love to work with you guys. You seem like the nicest people on the planet. So, yeah, there we go. That's me pretty much done. Hope this hasn't come across too ranty or... because these are all improvement ideas. That's not where I was going with this. This is feedback, critical feedback that I feel that No Man's Sky critically needs in the next couple of updates. I mean, if No Man's Sky has only got a certain amount of shelf life out there before you bring out your next game, I want No Man's Sky to be the best game it could possibly be before you down tools and move on to your next project. And it's got so much potential, and I feel that you can unlock swathes of that with so many simple sort of things. Just add a little bit more depth, add a little bit more depth there, add a little bit more depth there, add a bit this into the lore there, had that there, and boom, you've got yourself such an awesome package. So yeah, please consider some of the stuff that I'm saying, even if it has come across as overly critical in places. I feel that it's sorely needed for some of the OG players out there, like myself and like so many others. If you agree with this, people out there in the viewerverse, please hit a like, please share it, maybe even send it across to Hello Games' Zendesk or something. Because, yeah, I honestly do want this to be the best experience for new players. And it would be so good if some of this stuff got delivered before Switch players came in. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I think I've gone on to... I think I've made my points. I think I've made enough points. There's probably more that I should have touched on and didn't. Like ship customization. Like, yeah, you go into a system that's full of asteroids. Well, where's the people mining the asteroids? Add in some freaking mining. Rather than having stations in every system, maybe add in mining colonies that have got all these scaffolds going around the outside. Like The Expanse, like the TV show Expanse. They actually make their living going out mining asteroids. Maybe it's Gek systems that do it more so than any other system. Maybe when you go into a Viking system, their stations have got like trophies all over them of fauna that they've killed or whatever. Make the races feel a little different from one another, and what they do actually ties into the universe and also the structures you see, not only on planets but in space, and give them rhyme or reason. It's like if you go into a scientific area of space, make the stations more scientific. The Atlas free rooms inside of those stations, they contain nothing worth having, yet that Atlas card free is, you know, it's worth, it's brilliant. Atlas card free, open a door, nothing. Add in stuff that actually awards the player. Maybe it's a new base blueprint, maybe it's a new type of multi-tool that you just don't get in a cabinet, you know, a little bit like the vacuum cleaner ones that we've got in Sentinel Planets. Add in more varieties of exotic multi-tool in those Atlas card free doors. Make that Atlas card free worth freaking having. I mean, I've got a signed one there by Sean of the Murrays. Yeah, well, that's actually an Atlas card 4. Atlas card 4, yeah. There's so much you guys could do. There's so much untapped potential. Start tapping the potential in every update. Go back, look at every update. How can we improve on this? You know you did the Synthesis update? You know you did? That was freaking awesome, that update. That added some of that depth that I'm on about. That added quite a lot of the depth that I'm on about. Do more of that. Look at what's there. How can you improve it? How can you add more depth? maybe called it No Man's Sky Depth or something, or you find a pseudonym or whatever for Depth. Anyhow, yeah, I definitely have waffled on enough, and I think I've covered even more of a swathe of things that I know people would love to see into the verse. Ship customization being one, but don't take away from the ship hunters. So the way to put in ship customization, you've already got the scrapping tool there inside of the stations that works nicely. But every ship that you want a part from, maybe you go up and you scrap it and you get given parts from that ship. So you still got to hunt the ship, you still got to own the ship, you've then got to scrap the ship to get the parts to then build a ship, and maybe then you go to a shipyard. You know, the actual archives? The archives, you've got freaking cranes on them, right? Yeah? Well, and you've got different consoles. Maybe you go to an archive, you interact with that console there at an archive, so you have to locate an archive to do it after you've got all your parts, and then you can build a ship there. And maybe it costs a certain amount of nanites to actually build the ship out, or a massive swathe of units, because we've all got freaking units burning in our pockets right now. So there's a lot you could deliver. Anyhow, I really have gone on enough now. Take care, everyone out there in the viewerverse, and like I say, I would love to read your comments. Please put them in your ideas, and share the heck out of this video. Hopefully we get back to Hello Games. Hopefully they'll see it. Hopefully they'll see that I've made a couple of interesting points. And they can read your comments as well. They'll read your comments and say, oh, that's actually better than what Captain Steve said. All I want is this game to be the best experience it can be before they down tools, move on to another project. And I want you guys to be part of that, the community to be part of that. Hello Games listens to their community. And if it's all in the comments and it's been shared the heck out of, hopefully it might happen. Anyway, I've gone on enough, so cherry bye.